Welcome into the Inside Scoop. Today's Sunday, September 29th, and boy, do we have a lot to cover on today's show. We're going to talk Alabama, Colorado, USC, Texas, and more. What an amazing week of college football. And on this show, we're going to talk all about it and how it impacts recruiting. So before we get going, guys, make sure you hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, so jump on board and hit subscribe. Now, some of you are on the fence about joining On3. Well, I can get you there for just $1 if you use promo code BERG1. That's right. Go to on3.com and use promo code BERG1, and you can read everything. Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, the great Pete Nakos, everything they write for just $1. That's promo code BERG1. All right. Let's take a look at the top 20 as it stands today. Ohio State number 1, Alabama 2, LSU 3, Georgia 4, Auburn 5, Texas 6. Now remember, these are the recruiting rankings. These aren't the other rankings. These are just strictly recruiting. You got Oregon at 7, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and then USC in there at 10, Oklahoma 11, Notre Dame, Miami, Michigan, and Clemson round out the top 15. Florida State, they're in free fall. They're at 16, 17 Penn State, and Georgia Tech rounds out that top 20. It's good to keep track of, especially after a busy weekend like this. Now, I want to take a look at some of the major developments that went on this weekend. First, I want to talk about Deuce Knight official visit to Auburn. Now, he's been at Auburn 4 times this fall. Like Steve Wiltfong says, he's essentially a season ticket holder at this point, but this weekend was a little different. It was his official visit. Now, why is that different? Because he gets to spend the night. His trip is paid for. His parents can come. Auburn just has a little bit more access to him than they do on a regular visit. So we'll see what happens. He's probably still on campus. As we filmed this about midday on Sunday, he's probably just getting ready to leave. But what does a loss mean, right? Because this is recruiting. So in recruiting, it's all about selling. Can you sell Deuce Knight that you are the missing piece to this offense? Can you sell Deuce Knight on all these picks that you see happening? Can you say, hey, Deuce, you're different. You're going to come in and not do this. I mean, that's how you have to sell it if you're Auburn. We'll see what Deuce Knight has to say coming out of this visit, but a big visit. His official visit to Auburn was this weekend. Let me know what you think coming out of this. All right, up next, Colorado steals UCF's big visit weekend. What do I mean by that? Well, Colorado wins 48-21 going away. I mean, this one wasn't really close, and it was a great show put on by Shador, Travis. They really did what everybody wanted to see on the big stage. I mean, Travis Hunter just does it all over the place. He's the best player in college football, and recruits were watching. That's the big part of this. UCF made a point to have some of the best recruits, not only in the state of Florida, but the Southeast, on the sidelines to watch what they thought was going to be a Knights victory. But Colorado comes in, they kick their feet up, they make themselves at home at the Bounce House, and they leave victorious 48-21. And this is going to be the start of Colorado's high school recruiting run. I'm telling you right now. From here on out, I would really pay attention to who Colorado is going to be recruiting. We're going to make a video on that, so just keep watching. All right. Recruits watch Bama put on a show. Absolutely. Jumping out to a huge lead at home. Tuscaloosa was going crazy. They didn't expect the Georgia comeback, but then Ryan Williams, Jalen Milroe, they do a comeback of their own. Only 14 seconds. That Georgia lead was only 14 seconds before Ryan Williams scores from 75 yards out, and recruits were watching this one. Caleb Cunningham, the 5-star wide receiver from Mississippi, who's being recruited by Auburn. He's being recruited by Ole Miss. He was one of the top targets that was on campus to watch it, and you got to think that this win went a long way for some of these recruits that are thinking about Alabama. We're going to talk more with Tim Watts about that. Now, Texas, the next development. Texas is working on another FSU flip. They already flipped Myron Charles, the defensive lineman, Florida State's best defensive line commit at the time, has already flipped his commitment to Texas, and they're also working on Javian Hilson. Javian Hilson's one of the best edges in the country. He reopened his recruitment. He decommitted from FSU just about 3 weeks ago. Now he's trending to Texas. And now Texas got another FSU commit on campus this weekend. 4-star wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon was on campus to watch Arch Manning put up 300-plus yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 rushing. And now Dalen McCutcheon, it's his second visit in 2 weeks not to FSU. Last weekend, he was at Texas A&M. This weekend, he's at Texas. We also know USC's trying to kick the tires here. Ohio State was involved prior to his commitment to FSU. Now, of course, FSU is going to do everything within their power to hold on to him. And Deion McCutcheon right now is saying all the right things. But if you follow the visits and see where he's actually going, I mean, remember, Florida State was in Texas to play SMU this weekend. He didn't go to that one. He was in Austin to watch Texas, Mississippi State. Keep an eye on Deion McCutcheon and the Horns. All right. Last development I want to talk about was USC, Wisconsin, and some new expert picks rolling in for the Trojans. Comeback win over Wisconsin. USC's defense pitched a shutout in the second half with recruits on campus, and Steve Wiltfong, he made some noise. Fong bombs, they went off on Sunday. Running back Deshaun Rideau predicted to USC. Cornerback RJ Sermons predicted to USC. Both are 2026 recruits, and both are local California kids. This is important because you see, in the 2025 cycle, it seems like Lincoln Riley is trying to strike up a lot of new relationships, get in on recruitments that I've already maybe passed them by. But what we're seeing now is USC getting ahead. And I think that's vitally important for 2026 recruiting. 2025 recruiting is going to be great. 2026 recruiting has a chance to be elite. So, comment section below, you guys let me know, what were the biggest developments of the weekend? Did I miss any? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know, comment section below. Let's talk Colorado Buffs recruiting. There was a Big 12 showdown in Orlando. Colorado, they go into the bounce house and they made themselves at home. They just kicked their feet up. They had a good old time. Not only did they get the win, but they turned UCF's big visit weekend into the Buffs' big visit weekend. Probably the most complete game on the field that Colorado's played in the Prime era. They win 48-21 going away. And, you know, if they keep winning, there could be some flip targets coming into focus. That's what we're going to talk about on this video. But first, Colorado fans, go ahead, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. We're here to talk Colorado recruiting all season long, so jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's take a look at some of these names coming into focus. You got DB Byron Baldwin now trending to Colorado really since his visit to Boulder last weekend. Now, he's committed to Indiana, but that's not going to stop Coach Prime to recruit a top 20 player at his position, and you can see why he likes him so much. 6'1", 180 pounds, prototypical size for a DB in Coach Prime's defense, and he's from Baltimore. Now, he did visit last weekend, hasn't flipped his commitment officially, but the predictions from Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, they've been rolling in, so love where the Buffs stand for Byron Baldwin. Of course, now you got offensive lineman Carday Smith. Committed to USC, but he's 6'6.5", 295 pounds. He was one of those official visitors on campus last weekend that has not officially flipped his commitment, but the number 18 player at his position, 233 overall, is from Mobile, Alabama, and I have him on flip watch. Now, he already committed to Auburn once. Well, he committed to Auburn in the spring. He flipped to USC after an official visit in the summer, and now, after an official visit to Colorado, a major need at that position, could fill 6'6.5", 295 pounds. You gotta like where Colorado sits right there. Just keep winning. That's what's got to be done for these flips to happen. And you know what? Speaking of winning, Prize Picks has made me a big winner this season. Prize Picks is great. You pick 2 or more players, then select more or less on their stat line. Travis Hunter, he's been a huge winner for me on more than one occasion. I love playing Travis Hunter more than on receiving yards. It's been a big one for me this season. But this week, it was Deion Sanders. I took more than on his 249 passing yards. I knew he was going to go to UCF and throw it all around. I think he threw for 280, something like that. But I hit big there with another CU Buffs player. So you got to get on Prize Picks. It's easy. It's fun. It's a great way to play daily fantasy and watch your favorite college football team. Let me know who you guys have in your lineup this week. I need some locks. I need some winners. I think I'm going to get back on that Travis Hunter more than on the receiving yards. But Prize Picks, it's the most fun way to make a little money during the football season. And here's what we're going to do. Go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop and use the promo code inside scoop to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play 5. That's promo code inside scoop. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, Let's get back into these flip targets. Now, USC fans are going to be really mad at me. I didn't mean to have so many USC names on this list, but sorry, that's, it's kind of location-wise where Colorado's battling. So we got quarterback Julian Lewis. Now, what's a flip list without Juju on it? The quarterback from Carrollton, Georgia, has been a name associated with Colorado recruiting for a while, but he hasn't been on campus this season. Now, he did visit USC this past weekend for that Wisconsin game, so the next step is to really get him on campus. And if they're not going to get him on campus, who is after Juju on the Colorado Buffs quarterback board? We'll probably find out here soon. But this week, it's a bye week, so we have a chance to kind of see where Colorado's head's at with recruiting. I don't know if Coach Prime will hit the road this week, but I'm certain that we will see Colorado assistant coaches get out and go kind of comb over their territories and go see some of these bigger names on Friday night. So will the Buffs go see Juju during the bye week? That's something just to pay attention to. Or, hey, if we see them go after other quarterbacks during the bye week, we know those are names to jot down. So Juju Lewis at USC this weekend. I think there's some work to do if this truly is the guy that Coach Prime and the Buffs want to be their future signal caller, but it's not too late. There's still plenty of game left. And with Colorado heating up on the trail, well, we could see them press for Julian Lewis soon. All right, another USC name on this commit list is wide receiver Jerome Miles. Now, he committed to the Trojans just about 3 weeks ago. He was one time an Ole Miss commitment, and he's now a 5-star recruit out of Utah, and this is where location plays. I mean, it's not in state, but it's not too far either, and you got to think offense plays in this decision. If you flip Juju, that plays as well. Now, I like Jerome Miles because he's an early impact receiver. 6'3", 215 pounds. Now, there's just not a lot of guys built like that, not only on Colorado's roster, but just in general in the entire country. He's from West Jordan, Utah, and I wouldn't be surprised if things start to heat up between him and Colorado. The next prospect on the list isn't necessarily a flip. He decommitted from FSU just a couple weeks ago, but was committed to them for some time. Actually was committed to Alabama when Nick Saban retired. He decommitted, committed to Florida State, and has since reopened his recruitment. Now, Texas, UF, UCF, and some more are on Javian Hilson, but he was at that UCF game in Orlando, and I think he is a guy who's looking around. I'm not saying that he's just going to open up the lines of communication to anybody, but Colorado offered him during the summer. This isn't a cold call. There is a relationship there, and he's an early impact prospect at a position of major need coming off that edge for Colorado. So those are some big names, but then you also got, you could go after UF defensive lineman Joseph Mbachu. He's been committed to the Gators, but he's taken a ton of visits. Ole Miss wide receiver Samari Reed's another name to know. LSU edge Jesse Harold. Florida State wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon. He took a visit to Texas this week, and he was at A&M the week before. He's out of the state of Texas. That could be somebody that Coach Prime goes after. You guys let me know. Who are your top flip targets? Let me know, comment section below. But, the best way to recruit is just keep winning games, and that's what the Buffs have been doing. Keep winning games. There is no better way to recruit than just to win. So we'll see if Colorado uses this momentum to take this into the bye week and go see some recruits. Pay attention to where they go, because Colorado is only recruiting guys that are going to be able to come in and play right away. So any time spent on the recruiting trail is worth noting. We'll keep an eye on it throughout the week. We'll have more videos. You guys, let me know, how do you feel about this Colorado win at UCF? How do you feel just in general about Colorado recruiting? Let me know. Comment section below. Let's talk Alabama recruiting. The Tide, they had their cold summer, but there were questions about Bama's direction under Kalen DeBoer on the field. Well, not questions, but just nobody ever saw it. But those questions on Saturday night, some people got some answers. 41-34 over Georgia. A game so good, we had recruits shutting down their recruitments coming out of this one. We're going to talk all about it with Tim Watts of Bama Online. But first, Alabama fans, do me a favor. Smash that subscribe button. These are exciting times, and we're going to talk all about it. So jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on the great Tim Watts, Bama Online. Tim, there's been a lot of big game atmospheres in Tuscaloosa, but where do you rank this one?
It's right up there. I mean, I think the benchmark's always 2011 LSU game, number 1 versus number 2, and 9-6 game. I mean, this is a, number 1 or number 2 versus number 4, but I think it was a lot bigger from the fact it was Kirby. And we spent a whole summer hearing about the torch being passed, right? Kirby would take the torch. Well, it wasn't passed, and passed, and Alabama, held their own. And I think Georgia, Kirby Smart certainly knew what a tough environment that was going to be, and Alabama was a strong program. But the game itself was just amazing. I mean, to watch from the early blowout to the late comeback to Georgia taking the lead to Ryan, and that's just not how Alabama won it. The plays they made were historic. We'll be talking about the play of Ryan Williams well past me and you aren't here anymore. I mean, that play was amazing. And even, it was so good that you forget what a great play Xavier Brown made on the interception. I mean, it was fantastic. We've been discussing that on Bama Online this morning. Unbelievable play on both ends and a hell of a throw from Jalen Milroe.
Man, you could feel Xavier Brown. He was going to get one. It was getting close, and boy, did he come clutch at the right time. So did Ryan Williams. Now, there was some Bama commitments that were on campus that I thought it was really important to have some of these names, like Keelan Russell, Michael Carroll, Ty Haywood, Caleb Cunningham, Dijon Lee. Michael Carroll, Caleb Cunningham, they've both been taking visits. Michael Carroll down at Miami. Caleb Cunningham's been to Ole Miss. He's been to Auburn. What do you think it was like having those guys in the recruiting section to see Alabama and just to see and feel what an atmosphere is like at a big-time game like this?
Yeah, I think it was good to have basically any recruit on campus. With Michael Carroll, I mean, it was interesting because, he's down in Florida, he moved to IMG, unbelievable prospect. I think he's 12th in the country at On3, maybe higher. And Miami made a huge push for him. They're a heavy NIL school. They made a huge push for him, got him for an unofficial visit. He came out pretty quickly and said, a week later, he's locked in with Bama. Mm-hmm. But to get him there for that game, which he's probably never experienced, and to get him on campus for that. All those guys, Keelan Russell, who's been solid, but to see your quarterback, because that's what these guys consider, the recruits, the commitments. Their quarterback's Keelan Russell, because that's who most of them will play with Jalen Milroe probably being gone before their impact guys. But, having any of those guys, Caleb Cunningham, he is what he is. He's been honest from day one. He was going to take visits. He was going to enjoy the process. He's a guy that lets you know where he's going. This isn't something he just pops up somewhere, which we see a lot of. He lets the Alabama staff know where he's going. He lets the reporters know. He communicates with Joseph Hastings and Andrew Bone, who cover recruiting at Bama Online. He does a good job of that. So, I mean, he is what he is. He's going to enjoy the process. But getting him there last night, and again, if you're a wide receiver, you're probably liking what you saw last night.
All right, there's also some major flip targets on campus, and I want to talk about a pair that are committed to Michigan, in safety Ivan Taylor and tight end Andrew Olish. They were both at this game. Tight end play was great. Defensive play was great. How do you think this impacted flip targets like Ivan Taylor, Andrew Olish?
I know a little bit more about Ivan. Olish, I think, wants to go to Michigan. I think someone's going to have to turn him away from there. Mm-hmm. I think he had a good time. They threw to 3 different tight ends last night. I think it was 7 receptions. A few more targets there, so the tight end was active. But Ivan Taylor's the one Alabama was recruiting when he was committed to Notre Dame. That thing stayed very quiet. Ivan was very quiet the whole time. Took a visit to Alabama. We actually thought he led. We had a source, really good sources, telling us Bama was in a really good position. Went to Michigan, fell in love, and committed there. He had a great time. He's already said what a fantastic time he had. He's not going to tip his hand too much. I know he's going back to Michigan for the Michigan State game, but he's been communicating with Alabama staff heavily. So I think there's something happening there. Not necessarily an imminent flip, but I think he's giving it some consideration.
Yeah. All right. Now, looking at the other commits that are targets that are committed elsewhere, linebacker Jaden Harmon kind of stands out to me. He's committed to Tennessee, but we know Alabama's kind of poking around for another linebacker in this class. What did you make of him showing up on campus this weekend?
Jaden's a quiet guy, committed to Alabama early in the process. He's kind of leading to Tennessee, and they lost a coach that he was familiar with. Alabama moved in, got his commitment. Tennessee came in and flipped him, but obviously he's still communicating with the Alabama staff. Very impressed per people close to him with that, what he saw last night. Again, I'd be hard pressed to find a recruit that says he wasn't impressed, but the communication's been really good. He got a lot of FaceTime with the Alabama staff and some one-on-one time, so that's obviously a good thing.
All right. What a ride this game was. There was multiple comebacks, freshman impact players, just a thriller in Tuscaloosa. What was the fan reaction to this one on Bama Online?
It's insane. I mean, the ups and downs. If you're on the website, on the roundtable message board during a game, I mean, every play has a reaction, positive or negative. Every single play, every penalty, everything that happens. But I can tell you, like, I'm getting on up in years, and a lot of my crew's getting on up in years, and their reaction to the game, at the game, before the game, at the tailgate, during the game, it was just amazing. I mean, you had people, I've got guys that I don't think they're blood. They're like you. They are pure chill 99.9% of the time. They were losing their mind last night during the early part of the first half. The closeout, I don't know anybody who wasn't super excited. And you saw the fans and you saw the recruits' reaction. We have a great video. We don't have it, but it's online. Justin Hill's mom, who I think actually committed before Justin did, she absolutely was partying when they scored that touchdown. Justin was like, wow. All the recruits had their cameras out, video and the crowd. So really everything you could have wanted for in that game. And I actually think, in hindsight, I think it was a better game the way it finished. I think it would have been a lot more boring if Bama just ran on out there 42-3 for everybody involved, because this kept the crowd in it. And then again, you had the movie type finish where, if me and you're watching that movie and that game finishes like that, me and you're like, nah, that would never happen, but it actually did.
Yeah. Just an unbelievable game. What a way to end the weekend. Alabama fans, you got to be feeling good about recruiting right now. Talk to Tim and I, comment section below. Who is your top flip target heading into the next month of October? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Texas recruiting coming off that first SEC game, a 35-13 win over Mississippi State. It wasn't a perfect outing, but it did get the job done. Arch Manning makes his second start. He looked sharp. He threw for 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. And we're going to break down the latest recruiting developments. I got Justin Wells from Inside Texas on this video. So before we get going, though, Texas fans, very important. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. We're going to be talking Longhorn recruiting all season long, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Justin Wells from Inside Texas. And I just got to ask you, what was the atmosphere like inside that stadium for the very first SEC game for the Texas Longhorns?
Josh, they were pretty hype. From the fans to the players to the coaches to the recruits. It was a pretty hype atmosphere. 100,000 strong. Bringing on the Bulldogs from Starkville. It wound up being a pretty good game, actually. Texas obviously pulled away late and kind of left them in the dust. But, hey, it was a buildup of about 3 years from that last summer in July 2021 when we found out that Texas was moving to the SEC. It was the culmination of all of that work and effort and resource kind of being put in motion. You got to see the SEC logo on the field, and it became real on Saturday because they wound up hosting a handful of pretty nice recruits, and that's the way you open up SEC play for the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, and if we've seen anything with SEC play, a win is a win is a win, and any way you can come out of that thing a victorious program, you'll take it. So we want to talk about a couple notable visitors on campus, and I want to focus in on wide receiver Deion McCutcheon, and it's interesting because he's committed to FSU. He was in Austin while the team he's committed to was playing SMU and getting a beat down, mind you. Deion McCutcheon, though, he's on the sidelines in Austin watching Arch Manning go off. What are you hearing on this recent visit from McCutcheon?
Yeah, McCutcheon was actually closer in proximity to the committed team he was at. He's a Lucas Lovejoy 4-star, 5'11", about 180 pounds. I talked to him last night, and I caught up again with him this morning for a little bit of post-game wrap. Him and Chris Jackson, the wide receiver coach at Texas, have been getting closer. Texas really likes McCutcheon. They liked him in the summertime. I just felt like Florida State had built that earlier foundation. They had solidified that a little bit sooner in their recruitment, and I think that's why he ultimately picked the Seminoles. But that didn't stop Texas. They think McCutcheon is the perfect complement to Jamie French and Khalid Lockett, the 2 5-stars committed in the 2025 class. McCutcheon had a blast. He thought the atmosphere was electric. You could feel that SEC vibe permeating throughout the stadium. And he loved the wide receiver play, notably DeAndre Moore. He really liked how the receivers were used. Texas goes deep on their bench when it comes to receiver play. They go 6, 7 deep sometimes. And so he was impressed overall with the atmosphere and with getting to talk to the coaches, get to talk to some of the players, talking to Khalid Lockett on the sideline. I think that actually helped him out as well. He maintains he's solid to Florida State. That's kind of the status quo. But I think he is wide open, and I think Texas is the team to beat.
Yeah, what he says doesn't really match his his actions, because last weekend he was at Texas A&M. This weekend it's Texas. We know USC's involved right now. Ohio State was before his commitment, so I don't know right now where they stand. But with FSU spiraling, he could be an interesting name moving forward, not just for Texas. So last week before the visit, I kind of asked you, like, how big of a priority is McCutchen? But it sounds like he definitely is a priority for this Texas coaching staff.
Yes, they want him. Texas wants him. Let's don't get it twisted. They want at least 3 wide receivers in this cycle, maybe even 4. If they can get that number to 4, they're going to do that. Michael Terry, the 5-star athlete out of San Antonio Alamo Heights, who's going to be on campus October 19th, he might fall into one of those receiver categories as well. But they want at least 1 or 2 more pass catchers, and they love McCutchen. They really think he is a very complete wide receiver. He does everything pretty damn well. And I think that's what kind of, sticks out about Sark and the offense and things of that sort. Not to mention he's playing for Todd Dodge at Lucas Lovejoy now. And so he's getting an early dose of what wide receiver play is going to be at the next level. Look, Texas wants him. They're not beating around the bush. They're not hinting. It's a full on. We'd like you to flip. We'd like you to be a member of the 2025 class. Now they just have to close the deal.
Right. All right. Let's turn the page on Mississippi State and look forward to that October 19th home game where Georgia Bulldogs are coming to town. We knew Michael Terry's going to be there. We know Jonah Williams is going to be there, but you guys had some interesting intel on your site on Friday saying that Riley Pettijohn, the Ohio State linebacker commit, 5-star prospect, going to be visiting for that Georgia game on October 19th. Now, I'm sure that the visit list is going to expand, but Riley Pettijohn, a huge name. And really, when he committed to Ohio State, you and I talked, it sounded pretty much like contact had ceased. I mean, it sounded like they had gone quiet. So it's been a while now. It's been a couple months since he committed. What's going on between Pettijohn and Texas? Are those lines of communication back open?
I think Pettijohn and Ohio State are in a good spot. I don't see him teetering from that right now. But Texas is still recruiting one of the best linebackers in the country. Sure. And he's still listening. Pettijohn had a great relationship with Texas building up to that June official visit. Texas was the lead school. And then Ohio State, they came in the summertime and they cleaned up and they brought him in. But, our Charlie Williams from Inside Texas went out to watch McKinney play on Friday. He got to catch up with Duke Pettijohn, that Riley's dad, and Duke was smart. He's like, look, we're solid, but, you don't want to burn any bridges because Riley has 2 little brothers that are exceptional athletes as well, that are going to be prospects. There's a 2027 linebacker that's going to be a special prospect. And so you want to make sure you keep, that lines of communication open with the University of Texas because you got 2 other boys coming up the pipe. Even if it doesn't work for Riley, you got 2 other kids that are going to be most likely Texas targets. And so, look, they're keeping options open. They're going to keep their eyes open. I think he's solid to Ohio State. But the fact that he is still talking to Texas and that he is going to come in on October 19th, I think that's big because, one, Texas is looking to get 1 more linebacker in this cycle. They would love to add 1 more guy. They're talking to Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng out of IMG. They really like Madden Ferrimo out of California, who was actually at Notre Dame this weekend. But if they could flip Pettijohn, originally that was the goal. Elijah Barnes and Riley Pettijohn. Those were the 2 top guys on the big board. They're going to continue to recruit Pettijohn. They absolutely love him, and for good reason. He is a special player, and I love that he's at least keeping his options open and not burning any bridges. They're still talking to Texas. If they make it to that visit against Georgia on October 19th, this thing gets a little bit more real.
You can hear Texas recruiting getting a little more exciting each week. Justin Wells, thanks for stopping by. Texas fans, talk to us. How you feeling about these flip targets? Dalen McCutchen, Riley Pettijohn coming up into this October 19th weekend. Let us know how you're feeling. Comment section below. Let's talk USC recruiting. The Trojans, the number 13 ranked Trojans, they rallied from a 10-point halftime deficit to blank Wisconsin in the second half. They pulled away for a 38-21 victory, and the defense came through, pitched a second half shutout. We're going to break down what all this means for recruiting. I got Scott Schrader from We Are SC on this video, but first, Trojan fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits page. You know that we talk recruiting year round, and we love talking USC. So jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Scott Schrader. Now, 5-star defensive lineman Elijah Griffin was not in town, but you were tweeting that you think USC actually has a legit shot. Was that kind of tongue-in-cheek because Georgia was flailing at Alabama, or because the Trojans have looked so good to start the season?
Oh, it was definitely, I think USC, has a shot with him, but I was just being a smartass on Twitter like we tend to be at times, because I looked at that Alabama-Georgia score and I was just like, are you kidding me? I think everybody did. And so I just made a smartass comment.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. So the Trojans had some really important commitments on campus. Of course, no more important than having QB Julian Lewis, who makes his first college visit of the season to, of course, USC. So he's there for that USC-Wisconsin game. Great game for him to be at. But I want to talk about DB Shamar Arnaud, because recently he's been picking up a lot of interest in the South. And just on time, he was at USC for this one. How big of a visit do you think it was to get him back on campus for this win?
Yeah, I just think with the out-of-state guys, it's a big deal to get those guys on campus as many times as you can and just continue to build that relationship. You can do things via Zoom and FaceTime, and you can talk to them on the phone and all that. But when you're around collectively the entire staff and you have all those guys kind of talking to you, it's very important. And he's a guy that should be getting more attention from other schools. I've seen him a couple times now play this season, and he is a tremendous talent. So yeah, it was a big deal. At one time it was a thought he might be taking his official visit this last weekend, so he still got that left as well. So he'll be back at USC again this season at some point.
All right, now there were some important uncommitted targets on as well. None more important than defensive lineman Floyd Boucard. He was one of the prized commitments on Oklahoma's commit list as of like 2 weeks ago. Floyd Boucard opens his recruitment back up. He's decommitted now, originally from Canada, but living and playing football in Miami right now. Floyd Boucard on campus this weekend. What are you hearing coming out of this trip?
I'm just hearing that coming out of this trip. I was even hearing it before this. He came out for the visit this week, which is also an indication of where the interest is when you get guys like that on campus, not long after they open up their recruitment. But USC feels really, really good about him right now.
All right. Why not? Hey, Floyd Boucard could be the next Trojan commitment. I don't know. Let me know. Comment section below. Do we think so? All right. Ryder Lyons was back on campus, but there's two 2026 recruits that I want to talk about, because Steve Wiltfong, he put in predictions for running back Deshaun Rideau. He's a 2026 prospect, and also corner RJ Sermons. And Sermons a really interesting one, because I think for much of the summer, Oregon felt good about him. But he shows up at, I think, 2 or 3 USC games. And now that the Trojans are rolling, we're seeing predictions in for Sermons to USC. What do you think about Steve's predictions?
Not one, but 2 Fong bombs for local kids. I think that I've gotten to the point to where I try not to make predictions anymore until I know there's an announcement date, or if I know something's coming up really, really soon. And if those guys had announcement dates set, I would have a prediction in for USC for both those guys as well. Steve's been on top of this, communicating with those guys and their families and so on. So he's on top of that 100%. If he's going to put a prediction in for those guys, I have no doubt that that's where USC stands. But I also gotten feedback on those guys from the USC end, and they're feeling pretty good about him. Rideau was a kid this offseason. I think there were a lot of guys this offseason locally that were pretty high on UCLA, because they've done a great job of establishing relationships with some of the local coaching staffs and the prospects here. And Deshaun was one of those guys, with Deshaun Foster as is the head coach. But I think guys are kind of looking at UCLA right now and looking at USC in 2 different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we're seeing now is USC starting to lay the groundwork for these 2026 and even 2027 prospects a lot earlier than they were recruiting this 2025 class. So you kind of see, like we talked about, the struggles of really gaining traction with the 5-star like in Elijah Griffin. But this weekend, getting number 1 defensive lineman in the 2027 class, Richard Wesley, on campus. I think this really stands out. His quote, he's saying, "I love the Trojans. They're really high with me." So this is how you get ahead, right? And you're seeing this start to happen under Lincoln Riley. What do you think of a prospect like of Richard Wesley showing up on campus? Does this show that USC truly is headed in the right direction when it comes to high school recruiting.
Yeah, just like what we were talking about before we started this. Getting those local kids like that. There are always guys that you look at as the must get guys, right? And he is certainly at the top of that list for the class of 2027. They're doing an exceptional job with the class of 2026 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched walk out of the locker room yesterday, the USC locker room yesterday, probably four out of the five defensive backs that they're going to take in the 2026 recruiting class, all from just around the corner from USC. And then there's another one, Devon Benjamin from Oaks Christian, who I think USC is in a really strong spot for as well. So, yeah, I think it's important getting those guys on campus as much as they can. And more importantly is them not seeing USC suck, because that was kind of a problem for probably the last five plus years.
Yeah, well, USC doesn't suck this season. So Trojan fans, talk to us. Let us know. Comment section below. How you guys feeling about recruiting? How you feeling about this season? Let us know. Comment section below.